Hello and welcome to PJ's Movie Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about The Lighthouse. I'm here with Sean from Trek on the Tube. How's it going, Sean?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
Yeah, so we both saw The Lighthouse yesterday in separate provinces. And
Yeah.
what were your first impressions coming out of the movie? We'll get into the plot, but first things first, first impressions. Like, what were you thinking when you left?
Um, I don't know. It's one of those kind of just confusing things. I didn't. You come out of there and you don't really know what to think. You're like, what did I just witness? Kind of. It's like more an experience than a movie. I know it sounds really hipster to say that, but
It,
it's kind of how I felt.
I agree. It's a trip. It's a
Yeah.
mind. We can curse here. It's a mind fuck.
It is. It reminded me in a lot of ways of kind of like Shutter Island, but if it was trying to be a film,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Shutter Island. I liked it at first, and then upon rewatch, I was like, yeah, this doesn't have very many layers. It's kind of obvious what's going on. But
Mm.
this, it walks that line between what's real and what's not. I think I figured it out. We'll get into it, but I think I figured out like what was really going on in that movie, and I don't think it's as supernatural as it appears.
Mm.
And first things first, before we start, I'm gonna give like a basic summary, and you can pop in anytime. But this is the first instance in a movie where we see mermaid vagina, and I don't mean to sound vulgar, but it was really fascinating because like it's a practical effect, and it's strange, and you don't quite know what you're looking at first, and you're like, oh, and then stuff happens, but
Well, I think the camera pans out, doesn't it? Like it moves backwards.
yeah,
So at first you're seeing something kind of scaly, and you're kind of like, okay, what are they showing us? And your mind goes to all sorts of places watching this movie. Like every time there's something on screen, your mind goes to a million different places.
that was a scary mermaid, by the way.
It was a freaky mermaid. I was just the fact that they showed the mermaid like that first time in the movie. I was terrified of the prospect of seeing her again.
Yeah, especially in
Um,
the first scene where she's like screaming,
like, what the hell's going on?
or the second was the first or second one. There's one scene, there's one dream, I guess, or vision where she's washed up in the rocks, and then she starts screaming at him, and I was like, oh, that's really
the
creepy.
the film is disturbing, um, you know, in a way.
So this was directed by Robert Eggers, and this is the first film I've ever seen from him. I know he directed The Witch, and I did not see that, but I heard good things. Uh, the basic plot of this film is it's in the I'm looking at the Wikipedia plot. it's in the late it's in the late 19th century. Ephraim Wilson, played by Robert Pattinson, he's he's serving a contract as a wickie. That's a lighthouse keeper, or lighthouse keeper's assistant. And Willem Dafoe is an old sailor named Thomas Wake, who is very tough. He allocates a lot of the shittiest jobs to Winslow, and over the course of the film, Winslow is seeing visions of mermaids and tentacles in the lighthouse, and he notices that this Thomas Wake character is going up there, stripping naked and like just standing in the light for whatever reason, and which he becomes obsessed with over the film. Like the more far gone he is, the more obsessed he becomes.
They
with
each
getting,
have this strange thing where like the older person, so Willem Dafoe,
yeah,
he's all about not letting the younger guy see the lighthouse.
yeah,
And then the younger guy is all about, I need to absolutely see the lighthouse. And there's this obsession with like one keeping the other one out and the other one needing to see it. And you're like, guys, why?
yeah.
He's mad.
Yeah, the Thomas old sailor Wake, man,
Thomas Wake.
Thomas Wake, he's like the stereotypical old Irish sailor, peg leg and all. And but he's the, I gotta say, I'm thinking this is the best Willem Dafoe performance I've ever seen.
Oh, not Aquaman?
Aquaman, he was damn good. No, he was good in that, but he's like he goes all the way, man.
Yeah,
he's like he's 100% this old Irish sailor, and it's, you know, it really serves a role when you forget who the actor is, and you're not thinking Willem Dafoe. Like, you see Willem Dafoe in Spider-Man, you're like, that's Willem Dafoe.
I agree.
And you see him in certain movies, and you know, but you know, he's one of the best actors in Hollywood. Obviously, I don't know about Robert Pattinson. I was unsure of his character because it seems like he's from Ireland, and then he's a Cockney Brit, and then he's got a bit of a Canadian accent, and then at the very end of the movie, when he's freaking out and he's talking about, like, I hate your farts, and like he sounds like he's from Boston. I'm like,
he's okay. He's not as convincing, like, in contrast to Willem Dafoe here. I think both performances are great, though. It's just, I think Robert Pattinson, maybe it's an accent thing. He couldn't really stick an accent or land one specifically, so it kind of confuses you as to, like, what he's doing with his character. But
there could be an explanation for why he changes the way he talks throughout the movie.
I mean, I've moved around quite a lot in my life, and my accent makes absolutely no sense. And he states that he's worked in different places trying to find, you know, his true calling, I suppose. So maybe you could use that as an excuse. Like, he's been around, so he's picked up accents or lingo from different places.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought at first. But he could be a schizophrenic. It could be about this mentally ill young man who obviously he either killed that guy or let him drown in the logs. His real name is Thomas something or other.
Is his
Thomas,
real name?
His real name is Thomas Howard, apparently, and he apparently let this guy die, or he killed him. We don't really know. I don't believe when he says, "Oh, I didn't do it, though. I didn't do it." I'm thinking, like, maybe you did, and you're just trying to sound less guilty than you actually are.
Did that even happen, though? Like,
I
I
believe he was running away from something. I believe, like, that was a real thing in the story, that he was this other guy, and he assumed the identity of this guy he either killed.
So you're taking that as fact.
I'm taking that part as fact, but I'm saying perhaps there's clues throughout the movie that Ephraim himself is a schizophrenic, or he has auditory or visual hallucinations, or you could go with the fact that Willem Dafoe was actually a shapeshifter, like the son of Poseidon or something like that, right? And that when he goes into the lighthouse, at the top of the lighthouse, he's actually regenerating somehow. And so that when Robert Pattinson goes up there at the end, and
he seems very connected to what is it, Poseidon and what's the other one? I forget his name. Proteus.
Proteus is the son of Poseidon who can shapeshift, and I think the movie alludes to maybe Ephraim is hallucinating that he's Proteus, or he actually is Proteus, and there is actually a supernatural element throughout the whole movie. I don't think there's any supernatural element whatsoever. I
find it more fun to assume there is, though. It's like the seagulls. I find it more fun to assume that the seagulls are out to get this guy.
Oh yeah.
But they're probably not, right?
Well, that's the thing.
It's very So this is very.
That seagull is very aggressive. Yeah, go ahead.
This is very Lovecraft, isn't it?
I'm not really familiar.
Okay, so
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft deals with a lot of kind of supernatural things, but sometimes everything's left without an explanation. It's kind of like, is it supernatural? Is it not? Are we just imagining things? And it's all, and a lot of his stories are very tentacle related. People kind of praying to these kind of divine idols or false idols, but that are maleficent, like they're all evil.
Yeah,
and so I got a lot of those vibes.
I got a bit of sense of Dagon. Is that an H.P.
Yeah,
Lovecraft
that's it.
thing?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the same because that was made into like a cheap movie like
yeah, I
10,
saw
15
that.
years ago.
I enjoyed that cheap movie
Yeah, it was good for what it was,
for
but
what it
like
was.
it was I think it was like one of the first things that was on Netflix back in the day or something like that.
It's like a Spanish film, isn't it?
And
It was like Americans that filmed in this, or they
oh
get,
yeah, they film in this actual like old village, and
yeah,
like
and so people are being like they worship this sea god
sea,
or whatever, and
yeah,
they turn into like sea people, merfolk of
yeah,
some kind. It's got
merfolk, yeah,
those vibes in this movie, I think, with the tentacles and the mermaid and
yeah. So when you were talking about H.P. Lovecraft, I was like, I was thinking about something related to H.P. Lovecraft while I was watching the movie. I was like, oh, it was Dagon, that old film, and the Robert Eggers is so good at just weaving that into the story, and it feels real yet feeling surreal, and it's just such a great balance of inspiration and insanity. It really is. So these guys get drunk and they miss their boat or whatever, or the boat doesn't come. So they get so they get more antagonistic, and they can only pretty much tolerate each other when they're drunk. And what's his name? Ephraim finds a severed head in a lobster trap, and assumes that the old sailor killed the last wiki. And paranoia builds throughout, and there's this weird like go between like them being friendly when they're drunk and them being antagonistic when they're sober, and it builds to this crazy sick ending. I just want to look at I had a couple of quotes written down early in the movie. I love when Willem Dafoe says, "You're too slow, you a dullard," and Woody's like, "No, fooled me."
Willem Dafoe is amazing. Okay, so just everything about this film is absolute. Like every possible aspect of cinema is executed to perfection with this.
Yeah.
But the goddamn dialogue, like the dialogue that they wrote, is just amazing, and the delivery, like the performance, Willem Dafoe. Are you a dullard?
Yeah. And let's not. I was more critical of Robert Pattinson his performance at first, but I think with my headcanon explanation that maybe he's schizophrenic and that's why he changes the way he talks, the way he delivers those fucking lines are gold. Even though at first I was like, it would kind of irritate me. I was like, why doesn't he sound like he sounded like at the beginning of the film? What's going on here? And then I realized maybe he's crazy. Like, he's the crazy one. And
Fine, I like your food.
Exactly. Like, you're supposed to think the old sailor is the crazy one. Maybe the young guy is the crazy one.
So that's an interesting theme throughout the entire movie, isn't it? Because in the beginning, you're kind of on Robert Pattinson's side. You're on this, what's he called? Ephraim's side, right?
Yeah.
Because he's the young dude and he's there, and the other guy's he's not only is he set up to be like disgusting, but he's also basically a bully. He's not a very nice man. He's just annoying, and you think, okay, so he's the villain, if there is a villain here, and you're on the side of Robert Pattinson. But as the movie goes along, and Willem Dafoe Thomas just keeps reminding him, you're crazy lad, you're going insane. You're thinking, wait a minute, am I rooting for the wrong guy here? If you are rooting
exactly.
for anyone at all, but I mean, you're like, he might be just completely mad. And this old geezer, as disagreeable as he is, he's just here to do his job, and he has to deal with this crazy guy. Keeps on reminding him, swab that deck, swab that floor. It's like, you see him work throughout the entire movie, Ephraim. You're like, he's doing hard work, but you don't see him clean the floor. And so when he tells him you haven't cleaned the floor, at first you're inclined to believe, oh, well, he's cleaned it. He's working hard. And then, like, what, did he clean the floor? Like, is he even doing this? Or is he out lying on rocks screaming? having visions.
Yeah.
You just, I don't know, it's confusing.
But by the way, that scene where he confronts him about not cleaning the floor, which is totally probably the case that he actually didn't, because the director makes it a point to show so many scenes of him doing this like hard monotony, like this really tough work, and you don't see that. And
You never see him clean the floor.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, I was thinking, did he or didn't he? But yeah, he doesn't. So when he confronts him, Thomas is tough because he's old school and he expects the best, and he thinks this is a young strapping lad. And at first, he seems very villainous and confrontational, but you get these scenes where they're drinking. When they start drinking, he's such a friendly guy, and he has his words of wisdom, and he's well spoken for the type of guy he is. And Robert Pattinson's character doesn't say much, and whenever he speaks, it's kind of like this very unsure. Like, I don't quite believe what he's saying. So
is he a dullard?
Is he a dullard? Is he a real dullard? Like, seriously. And is he actually the one who you got to watch out for, as opposed to, and your mind starts changing. And I have a theory that I think the director's intention was to make you turn against him when he kills that seagull, because that's a brutal animal death. That's one of the most brutal animal deaths I've ever seen in a movie.
I agree. So there was basically 10 of us in the movie theater. I went to see this at like 1:30 in the afternoon. And there were only like old couples, like literally people of 80 years old, having a day out, and so they were watching this, and everyone had this moment. You could physically hear the room go, when he started beating on that seagull. It was a brutal animal death. I don't think I've seen an animal death that brutal on screen before. It's usually if something dies like an animal, they just shoot it clean, or I don't know, maybe it'll get hit by a truck or something.
By the way,
this was just raw violence.
Real seagull, not the one he killed, but the actual one-eyed seagull is played by 4 one-eyed seagulls, like for real.
I saw that they were here. Robert Pattinson has this interview. I haven't watched it yet, about him playing with seagulls, like trained seagulls.
Yep,
that's amazing. How does one get into seagull training as a career?
Animals are much smarter than we give them credit for, and if you communicate with a seagull effectively and train it, and feed it well and whatever.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt about that.
This little seagull, or one of them at least, in the first scene, it's being a bully, it's being an asshole, and the seagull is acting, or the director tricks us into thinking that the seagull is acting like a jerk, with this like posturing that the seagull is doing. And I bet you a lot of people just assume that's like CGI, right? 100% real.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, that would be the only thing that the CGI in this, I feel, wasn't as good as it could have been. But then, and by CGI, I mean there's very small amounts of it. There's maybe like a tentacle.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. But the tentacle, like when you saw it, you're like, that's fake.
Yeah.
It came out as fake, came across as fake, because as you were saying, the mermaid is practical.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I mean, yeah.
Because okay. So if that was CG,
I think he's using the CG very sparingly. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the tentacle didn't convince me, but the gulls and everything, that was all amazing.
Do you have any favorite scenes with Willem Dafoe, like breaking into almost speech and song?
I could not repeat the speech, but the moment where Winslow tells him that he doesn't like his food, and just Thomas Wake explodes at him and starts telling him how Neptune and Poseidon will come forth from beneath the ocean and drown him and then gouge his eyes out and whatever. It was just, it's like a 3-minute scene where just Willem Dafoe's ranting.
Yeah.
And it's so well spoken in the insult that it is. I absolutely loved it. And I love the conclusion where, Winslow just says, "Fine, I like your cooking." He just gives up. He's like, "I don't need to deal with all of this curse that you're sending upon me. I like your cooking. It's fine. Whatever."
It's one of the top 10 burns in any movie I've ever seen. There's a lot of like really. You know what? I think I might like this movie a little bit more than the Joker now. I might want to see it again. I don't know. There's so much. There's so much to go into on a second viewing of this movie for sure.
Honestly, this is equivalent to the Joker. They're different movies in a lot of ways, but they are two very great movies this year. October.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you? You're fond of me lobster. Say it.
See, this is one of the moments where the character, you feel for him. Like, he's usually a dick throughout the entire movie, but in this moment, you're like,
his feelings are genuinely hurt. Yeah,
he's genuinely hurt. He felt like his lobster was good. Whatever you think of the guy, it's been like, so there's the initial month, and then God knows how long passes after that initial month. He's still cooking for him every night. He comes home, like they get back home to this shack that they've got, and he's cooking. Yeah. And he's, I don't know, and you're fond of me lobster.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go through. I won't be too long. I want to go through some of the what I can recall of Willem Dafoe's lines, and that scene you were just talking about. He stands up and he says, "It's not gonna say. I don't have the whole thing. Just what I remember, right, or what I can make out." Hark, Triton, hark! Bid our father, the sea king, rise from the depths, full foul in his fury. Black waves teeming with salt foam to smother this young mouth, with pungent slime to choke ye, engorging your organs, till ye turn blue and bloated with bills and brine, and can scream no more. Only when he crowned in cockle shells, with slithering tentacle tail and steaming beard, take up his fell befinned arm. His coral trident screeches banshee like blah 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 blah, and it's crazy.
It goes on.
There's a really good line I like from him where he goes, "I'm a wiki, and a wiki I is, and I'm damn well wedded to this here light, and she's been a finer, truer, quieter wife than any live-blooded woman." And here's another one. Robert Pattinson's character asks him, why is it bad luck to kill a seagull, right? And Willem Dafoe's like, "In 'em is souls of sailors what met their maker." And that's another one. Hold on, I have a couple more.
Pirate talk, isn't
it? Yeah. What's the terrible part of a sailor's life? Ask ye, lad. 'Tis when the work stops, when you twixt wind and water. Doldrums, eviler than the devil. Boredom makes men the villains, and the water goes quick, lad. Vanished. The only medicine is drink. So yeah, that's some good shit.
It is. It's beautifully written. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that Willem Dafoe looks at this and he learns the entire friggin' monologue and then just goes on camera and does it. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So what did you... Okay, we're going to jump to the part where, they... Ephraim tries to escape and Thomas, axes up the dinghy and then they start fighting. And Ephraim finds out that he sees Thomas's journal and he sees that, he's going to write me up for all these incidences of insubordination. And it's going to effectively mean that he did all that work for no pay. And, of course, this drives Tommy, which is, I guess, his real name, mad. And he ends up killing the old sailor with an axe to the head. And then that part where he goes up and he absorbs the light, it freaked me the fuck out. I'm not joking. Like when
it's a very intense moment, and at first you kind of don't know what's going on when that scene begins, and then it drags on, and then you get just looking at, and then you realize you kind of realize what kind of image you're seeing, and it's just that moment where Robert Pattinson's like screaming, and the light is like upon him, and it seems like he's almost burning or whatever.
Yeah.
and the sound almost gets saturated in that moment.
Yeah,
It's a friggin' moment.
and the score and the sound behind this movie and just the sound design is another thing that's gonna be is like top tier. And the
It's
production
all
design, they
beautiful
went to no
ambiance.
they really went to Nova Scotia, right? And
Oh, really?
the lighthouse in that area wasn't good enough, so they actually built
Oh, they built one.
the entire set of the movie is built from scratch, all built by Canadian hands, and
So all
you
of the
know,
buildings, etc. Well, there's like a lighthouse with an extension on it, and then a shack
yeah,
next to it.
yeah,
Like,
all that is it was built from scratch on this part of the land in Nova Scotia. I forget what part exactly, but yeah.
mm,
And what the thing was, they had another reason they had to build it is because they were filming in such tight spaces, right?
mm,
And and so they had to build sections where the cameras would go. So it wasn't built like a real lighthouse. It had sections where the camera could move, or sections built so they could film at different angles in these small spaces. So like that was that was pretty cool to learn. One
absolutely. I
thing
mean,
this movie did
honestly,
for me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
if they left that lighthouse up there, I would make time to one day go and like visit that rock on which like they leave the set. If they were to do that, I would find that
Yeah,
just amazing to go there and just take a look at it.
yeah. There's a couple of articles and there's a few videos on YouTube that talk about it. Uh, yeah. So, final thoughts on the movie. You can go first.
I don't think it's a movie for everyone.
No.
It really depends on what you're looking for in a film. I mean, it can be troubling. There's troubling imagery in this. It's very explicit. In all of its themes. But I think it's absolutely brilliantly made.
It is.
It's a movie that I will rewatch, but it's not one of the movies that I will rewatch regularly for like my just kind of like a Star Trek film like Star Trek 4 I will rewatch on a regular basis because it's fun, it's lighthearted. This is not one of those films that I would do that for. I wouldn't just play this, to have dinner or whatever, or just on a random evening. This is a thing that I would show someone, like I would show a friend that likes movies.
Yeah.
But I
So I
think it's
guess
great.
you wouldn't recommend it for everybody. Just people who like this type of suppose you would call it artsy or art house kind of filmmaking.
I think yeah.
Not exactly. Does have a very good narrative and the character arcs. I find art house films
It's a
sometimes are a little
psychological
too
thriller,
pretentious.
isn't it?
Yeah, this is not pretentious like an art house film, like some people would assume like they are, because I'm not a huge fan of films that linger too long in scenes, and they think they're doing something intellectual by holding the shot on somebody's face for like 30 seconds. It's like, what's that about? But
if
this
someone's
movie, every scene is essential. Basically, everything you're seeing means something.
yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
if someone's kind of held back by the fact it's in black and white, it's a square format, however you call that. If someone's kind of held back by this, it's not just one of those choices that was like, oh, I'm gonna make my movie a little different, or I'm gonna I want to make it artsy fartsy, and I'm gonna do this. It's like it really serves the film in a lot of ways.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it adds to the context, and just the fact that it's in black and white, I think it adds so much to it.
Yes.
I don't know. It was great. It was an experience. I find
The aspect ratio. I heard people comment how it makes the film feel a kind of claustrophobic, and the fact that it's in black and white really makes the setting more believable. Like you're used to, we're conditioned, especially people in their 30s and 40s, say, or late 20s, who grew up with more black and white stuff. we're used to seeing like older things in black and white. So the aspect ratio and the fact that it is in black and white makes it feel like it's old.
And
And
everything is grim. That's the thing,
Yes.
because some of these scenes you can clearly see that the sky is blue. In the beginning, there's no storm, there's no clouds. It's a happy day, it's a sunny day, but it feels grim. It feels like a shit moment still because he's doing hard work. He's got these gulls that are basically menacing him,
yeah.
or he feels menaced by them. I don't know. It adds a lot.
And you can do a lot. You can do a lot of interesting things with lighting when you do shoot in black and white. So that you
Well,
can't
the lighting
do.
is exceptional in this.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
The way
It's-
the way they light the actors. I always come back to that one moment where the burn from from Willem Dafoe, but the way he's lit, because the camera
yeah.
kind of drags down, and so you're filming him kind of on an angle from below, and his
Yeah.
eyes get wide open. He goes all full Gowron,
Yeah.
and he's I don't know. It's
It look
beautifully lit.
he looks like a sea god rising from the sea.
It looks like Poseidon
Yeah.
damning him.
So we would vote. I would recommend this movie to anybody because I want people to go in and walk out. 4 people walked out of the screening I was in. There was like, I don't know,
That's insane.
15 people there, say, and 4, gradually. And there was an old couple who walked out like 20 minutes before.
So did they
20
walk
minutes
out
before
in
the movie
specific
ended.
scenes? I'm curious.
One guy walked out like 20 minutes in, never came back. And you can
Okay.
you can notice in a small theater when there's only few people, like
Yeah.
who was actually walking out, and then like 40 minutes in, somebody else walked out, and then 2 other like this couple walked out 20 minutes before the movie was ending. That's when the movie got like weirder and weirder, and it was just a lot of scenes with them drunk and dancing and maybe.
But so there isn't a specific scene that made people walk out. They just randomly left.
Yeah, I don't think they knew what they were getting into because this movie was heavily marketed. A lot of people know about it. My father knew about it. When he doesn't know about movies, he's like, "Oh yeah, the Lighthouse. I heard about that on Entertainment Tonight or something. I don't know." And so, I think a lot of people don't know what they're in for when they go see this. I think I like movies that kind of surprise me in that way, where I don't know what this is at first, and then like, okay, okay, this is fucked up.
All I knew was this was a movie in black and white with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson that go mad on an island. That's the description I had.
That's the basic gist I had of it too.
And I was like, it's not quite as simple as that, I suppose. It's got more layers to it, but that's what I had. The couple behind me, so this was like an elderly couple. When the movie ended, they commented on the performances, how they were good. So they were talking to each other. I was overhearing them.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh because the wife was like, and I wanted to. So what did she do? She said something like she came to see this movie because she thought the Joker would be too heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you're kind of lost on that one.
It's a good Halloween movie, by the way. It
is actually. It's a horror film to some certain extent, I think.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. It is a horror thriller/thriller.
Psychological.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I didn't quite understand why he was naked on the rocks and the seagulls were pecking his guts out, but I get the symbolism of it, I guess. I suppose he went mad and he went mad, stripped naked, and just died on the rocks, or he stripped naked. He went back up there, stripped naked, and then fell or through the window or something, or I don't fucking know. And that's why he's down on the rocks.
So this is after he falls down the stairs. He experiences the light in that horrible scene, right? And then he falls down, he falls all the way down the stairs. At this point, I think he's not only is he mad, but he's basically dead because he's hurt himself from the fall, which was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And he got hit by an axe. So he's bleeding out. I think he just crawled his way over to the rocks or something.
And stripped himself naked.
God knows why he's naked. I mean, it's one of the lesser crazy things that could happen in this film, that he gets naked.
I think that...
But he's still alive, as he's being eaten,
But
picked at.
you know that pose of him at the end, the way he's posed and the way the seagulls are pecking at his guts and stuff. That's reminiscent of like ancient Greek imagery of some god that was doomed to be tormented every day. His guts would be picked out and grow back, and then the seagulls would pick him out again, and that was his torture. So that was his damnation.
Were his eyes picked out? I kind of thought they were, but then
you can see one eye. It's almost like that sail, the severed head of the previous wiki that he finds in the lobster trap. It has the one eye pecked out. It has something
that didn't exist though. That was
that was all in his all in his head. But there's a lot of Greek. It's littered with Greek mythology of some sort that I need to do more research on because. Yeah, I heard, like you get this Poseidon thing and this Proteus, the shape-shifting son of Prometheus or whatever his name, or Poseidon. So there's a lot of layers to this film.
Okay, so there's a thing that it didn't happen, and I was kind of going in this direction before they killed off Robert Pattinson's character, but at some point I was thinking, is this movie kind of making the young character become the old character? Because at some point I kind of felt like he was becoming Thomas Wake.
Yeah.
He was kind of becoming how he was. He was stripping naked. He was becoming the drunk. And I almost felt like he was going to kill him, and he would become the old guy that would then bring young people onto this island.
Yeah, it was like all a vicious curse and a cycle of like, I take you on, I fuck you up, and then you become me, and then you fuck some young guy up years
and then
later.
You fuck some other guy up years later.
That's the way I interpret the entire movie, is that everything's real from outside of Ephraim Winslow's view. So the old sailor, Jesus, what's his name again? Thomas Wake. He's the sane one. He's just a tough old bastard, and he's actually really kind to the guy if you think about some of the scenes in the movie. And then it's all Robert Pattinson when you look at this through Ephraim's eyes, it's all delusion and it's all insanity and paranoia and all this stuff. And maybe the fact was that he was being insubordinate, and Thomas Wake witnessed him brutally kill that seagull. He says it to him later. He's like, "I watched you kill that," So he's looking at this young man. He's looking at this young man who's doing a lot of the hard work, and he's trying to make him tough and all this stuff. But really, in fact, he's looking at a man who's unraveling, and he's trying his best to handle it. And his only solution to dealing with Ephraim is getting him drunk, because that's the only time they can get along. And then there's that fight where they get into a fight before they almost kiss. That was pretty good. It's like, yup, we almost kissed. Let's fight. That shit's hilarious. And
I feel like that's a very that would happen in that time frame, in that time period.
Yeah,
it's like these characters are experiencing this moment, and they're like, nah, we can't do this, and let's just fight it off like men, right?
And this so-called supernatural element that Winslow keeps witnessing up in the light tower, I think that's just simply the old man going up there stripped naked, absorbing the light, and doing his own little religious ritual, and that's his, and nobody else can do it, and that's why he's so protective of it. And Winslow, being the crazy guy, the unstable guy that he is, becomes unhealthily obsessed with just going up there, and really nothing is going on. So when he goes up there and all that, he goes crazy, and he's like, all that's in his head. Like he's absorbing. It's coming to the brink. His insanity is just reaching its crescendo, and that's it. It's just about this one man who was actually mad, and the old sailor is the sane one. That's the way I interpret it, and I don't know how many other... I don't know if anybody else would interpret it that way, but that's the way I see it.
Well, the old man's just disagreeable, isn't he? He's
a tough old bastard. You got to think this is the late 19th century, and people were just tough as fucking nails, and they didn't tolerate people who didn't do their jobs. And he's as old school as you fucking get. He was probably born in like 1840 something.
Swab the deck.
Yeah. He's like, I lost my leg. I was a sailor for years. You can scrub the floor. And you does what I says and you likes it. You know, like...
Okay, so he changes his story about how he loses his leg. Or is it just Robert Pattinson that's completely mad? I didn't say nothing about no nuns.
He did say something about nuns.
He did?
Yeah. He does.
And then he changes it.
I think that's just him telling tall tales. And that further aggravates...
You're a liar! You're a liar!
Yeah, that aggravates Winslow even more. And I really think it's the case that Winslow is just the crazy man who comes to the lighthouse and fucks everything up. And
I love that moment where he's like, you know, you got to ration. And he's like, yeah, well, I mean, you said the boat was going to come. You know, they were supposed to come yesterday, whatever. And he's like, we've been here for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, we've been waiting for 3 weeks. And you kind of realize, oh my God, like, this dude has no idea how much time is passing. The boat, apparently he thought was supposed to come yesterday, but it's been 3 weeks. Or has it been 5 weeks? Or has it been 2 days? You don't know.
If I say, when you go back and if you go and watch this movie again, keep that in mind, that Willem Dafoe's character is the one who's trying to keep things together, and he's doing his best, but this young man is becoming more and more of a problem. And I think that scene where he violently kills that seagull is an indication that, okay, maybe he's not the good guy.
Well, if you were to take out every supernatural element of the film, if you were to like assume there's nothing supernatural going on,
yeah,
then yeah, it's like this dude just lashed out on a gull. Yeah. For no reason. Like it's not the gull's fault that one of them fell or died in the water tank.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
So he's just lashing out on a seagull for no reason, just because he's mad. Yeah, I mean, if you assume there's no supernatural things going on, yeah, he is just crazy.
Yeah, I think he's just hallucinating these tentacles and whatnot. But you got to think, in that scene where he's beating Thomas Wake, right? And he apparently shapeshifts into the what's his name, Proteus, and then he shapeshifts into the mermaid. And then you hear Thomas Wake say, "You're killing me," right? And then that snaps him out of his delusion. There are many indications in the movie, I find, that where he's both having crazy dreams, but he's also hallucinating. And there's several scenes where he's, getting off by himself. And then there's that final scene where it doesn't satisfy him to do that anymore, and he actually squeals like a merman or something, or like a sea creature. And there's so many indications that he's fucking crazy. Like he's totally off his rocker. and Thomas Wake is just like, I just got to get this boy drunk and get him out of here. Just try my best.
He's he's biding his time basically. He's just trying to we got to get this guy off this rock.
And like you said earlier, the scene where he says, "I don't like your cooking," and then you feel for Thomas Wake, and he's like, and he's got that sad look on his face, like a sad puppy dog. He's like, "Oh, say it ain't so, me boy," or whatever. He's like,
"You don't like me lobster.
Say you loves me lobster. You likes me lobster, don't you? Say it." Oh man. And he's like, "Fine, I like your cooking." After he has the whole speech. Oh, it's so good.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and everybody should watch it. And it's a great Halloween movie. And I want to thank my friend Sean for discussing this movie with me, and looking forward to more discussions about more movies if possible.
It's nice to have someone to do, because this is a movie that I would have gone and seen, whatever the case. But then I can talk about it, but my wife's not going to want to see it. And I don't know. I don't like the people around me. They don't go see this movie, so I wouldn't have had anyone to discuss it with.
Yeah.
So this is great.
Well, thank you for joining me, Sean. And until next time, stay classy, folks.
See ya.
that was an improvised end. I was like, I don't know how to end it. Stay classy. That's cool.